When I play non-VR games, I'm always thinking about whether those games will be good if they were turned into VR games. And that's the focus of today's video. Hello there and welcome to RealityBreak, your one-stop shop for everything VR and AR related. In today's video, we're going to be talking about games that I think would make for perfect VR games. This video is going to cover loads of different game genres, from story-based adventure games, to tactical shooters, to superhero games, and also completely open world games where you can do whatever you want. Of course, this is my opinion, and if you have any games that I didn't mention, make sure to let me know down in the comments. Starting with one of my favourite games of all time, and for good reason, Just Cause 3. Just Cause 3 is a game set in the absolutely stunning fictional nation of Medici, which is in the Mediterranean Sea. The island nation is under rule of dictator General Sebastiano di Ravello. Just Cause 3 follows main character Rico Rodriguez as he fights alongside the rebels to overthrow the rule of di Ravello. Medici is a nation full of a precious mineral called bavarium, a highly explosive and strangely magnetic substance infused with electricity. It's also been described as the next level of uranium by game director Roland Lesterlin. Now, I'm going to make sure not to spoil any story details, as I highly recommend you play it yourself. The gameplay of Just Cause 3 is just world class. Rico has to fight his way through di Ravello's army, as he takes down major military bases, harbours, settlements, and returns captured cities, towns, and villages to the people of Medici. The player has a huge arsenal of weapons to their disposal, from pistols to assault rifles to snipers, and also weapons of mass destruction. For example, the M488 Bavarian-based warhead. The player gets to freely roam a frankly huge map, dense with detail and life. Alongside the weapons in Just Cause 3, Rico has a gadget on his arm, which allows him to tether objects together, as well as grapple onto any surface. I think Just Cause 3 would be an amazing fit for VR. In VR, we lack games that let the player go anywhere they want by any means of transportation, not to mention at any point in time that they want. VR games that make the player feel powerful and in control are amazing, and we need more of them. In Just Cause, you feel unstoppable. That is, until you accidentally wingsuit into the ground and instantly die. Anyway, being able to soar above giant military bases as you rain down barrages of missiles is a feeling that I need in VR. Rico's grapple gadget also adds a whole new way of locomotion into the game, combined with his parachute and wingsuit. The movement possibilities for the player are huge. Of course, when thinking of things like wingsuits and flying in general, we do have to consider the motion sickness element, and there definitely is a possibility that motion sickness could play a part. But generally, I don't think motion sickness is as much of a problem as people think it is. Besides, the wingsuit and parachute aren't required for anything. They are just another way of locomotion. You may have noticed for this, I am actually talking about Just Cause 3, not Just Cause 4. Just Cause 4 is widely considered a worse game when compared to Just Cause 3, in terms of graphics in some portions, features, gameplay, and also the story. So the Just Cause franchise needs a bit of a boost after the rocky release of Just Cause 4 in 2018, and I think VR could be a great path to go down for the franchise. If a game on the level of Just Cause 3 was created in VR, it would raise the bar for VR games by an astronomical amount, far beating the likes of games like Half-Life Alyx. Being able to play Just Cause 3's first mission, where you're standing on top of a plane and shooting rockets down at the military, would not only be very scary, but it would be extremely fun. The Dishonored franchise, especially Dishonored 2, is another one of my favourite games of all time. In Dishonored 1, you play as Corvo Attano, the Empress's royal protector, but when the Empress is assassinated and her daughter kidnapped, you mask up and seek revenge for the ones who took them from you. In Dishonored 2, you play as either Corvo or Emily Caldwin, the daughter of the Empress who was kidnapped in the first game. What sets Dishonored apart from other stealth Assassin's games like Assassin's Creed is the supernatural powers that Corvo and Emily both possess. These powers are granted by a supernatural being from the void called the Outsider, who gives you his mark along with a set of powers. The gameplay of Dishonored is incredibly smooth, being able to freely roam the map that you're playing on and play your way. Dishonored prides itself on being a game where you can choose exactly how you go about every single aspect of the journey to justice, from going 100% stealthy to killing everyone and everything you see. The way you choose to play the game actually has an effect on the environment as well. Just one of the effects here is adding more rats. So the more people you kill, the more the rat plague will spread across the streets. And how you decide to play will also change the ending as well. As Dishonored is a very physical game, I think it would just be perfect for VR. I can just imagine crouching in the shadows waiting for my target and then taking them out, or even dropping down from above them with my sword out. Being able to use Corvo Emily's powers would be another way to make the player feel powerful. Dishonored's level design is some of the best I have ever seen in gaming, with incredibly detailed maps like the Clockwork Mansion, which I believe is the single best level in any game in terms of design. Pulling levers in the house completely reorganises rooms, adding new corridors, items and walls, and hides the rest all below the floor and in the walls. The mansion is also patrolled by clockwork soldiers, a huge 4-armed mechanical soldier. Fighting one of them in flat screen is already scary enough, so doing it in VR would be amazing, and also terrifying. Now, there is actually a game releasing pretty soon called The Vampire's Masquerade Justice, which is a game clearly inspired by Dishonored, and it looks like it's going to be the closest thing we get to Dishonored in VR for at least a while. And I'm definitely excited to play that game when it does release. We also of course have the Assassin's Creed VR game releasing later this year. I'm interested to see how well that game adapts Assassin's Creed to VR, and I do hope it is good, but we haven't really seen much. All we've really seen is a cinematic trailer, so we can't really pull any opinions from that. Dishonored is probably the most likely to happen entry in this video, as the studio behind Dishonored, Arcane, have actually dabbled in VR before, making a DLC for Prey with full VR support. The DLC was reviewed pretty badly, but not necessarily because of bad VR support. But before we do get to the next issue, if you are enjoying this video so far, leaving a like and subscribing would help me out a ton. This is a new channel, so it just needs a little bit of help. Anyway, back to the video. The next game is a tactical shooter called Ready or Not. In this game, you can squad up with up to 4 players, or 4 AI, which you can order around. In the game, you act as a highly skilled SWAT team, raiding buildings and busting whoever may be inside. But it's not that easy. There is constant gunfights, hostages, civilians, traps, and people that run at you with knives. And that's not even it. There is a lot more as well. You can't just run in guns blazing in Ready or Not. You have to be extremely tactical and coordinated with your team. The game is already very immersive, with amazing sound design and top tier level design. Having VR support for Ready or Not would take this immersion to the next level, and would be truly insane. I have played a Ready or Not inspired VR game before, called Tactical Assault VR, but wasn't exactly impressed by it and ended up refunding it. The graphics were blocky, low poly, and just reminded me of some Roblox games. It just didn't capture the essence of Ready or Not very well, and didn't feel tactical at all. The enemies would shoot at you from the other side of the map after walking out of the spawn area. Having a good quality first-person tactical shooter in VR would make for an incredible and immersive VR experience with high stakes, and would require the player to play even more tactically than they would on the flat screen version. Another game that will be coming out in the future is a game called The Gunman Contracts. It was originally 2 mods for Half-Life Alyx, where you infiltrate an area and have to take out a target and get some intel. That game is now being made fully into its own game and looks extremely promising. We don't know exactly what the gameplay is going to be like, but I'm hoping it has at least some similarities to Ready or Not. And that will probably be the closest we get to Ready or Not in VR, but I can always dream. Most kids dream of being a superhero at some point, and that's why in this portion of the video we're going to be talking about 2 superhero games, Spider-Man and Wolverine. Spider-Man of course is on its 3rd game of the series since the Spider-Man reboot for PS4, and the Wolverine game has yet to release for PS5, but did have a teaser trailer released in late 2021. I think we could all agree that these games having VR support would be a huge step for VR gaming. Even if they were PSVR 2 exclusive, which they probably would be, these games, especially Spider-Man, would inspire a huge influx in sales for the headset. Of course, with games like Spider-Man, you do have to go into it expecting at least a little bit of motion sickness, and things like flips probably wouldn't be added to the game, since it could be very disorientating for the player. Though if the web swinging physics are good, they can make it so that the player can completely decide how they want to web swing, giving the player full control over momentum and movement in the air. A game like Wolverine wouldn't have anywhere near the same problems with motion sickness, as for the most part, Wolverine would be a ground-based combat game. Although, of course, Wolverine does have his classic jump where he travels quite a distance. Wolverine's combat would fit right into a VR setting. Being able to hack and slash at enemies and tear them apart would let the player live out the life of Wolverine, like a flat screen game never could. If you play games like Blade and Sorcery, there's actually a mod for Blade and Sorcery which gives you Wolverine's claws, and running through a dungeon with them slashing people is extremely fun. Spider-Man also being the same. Being able to swing from webs and shoot webs out of your hands is a feature that many gamers would be eager to play. Spider-Man and Marvel as a whole, being as big as it is, would bring a lot more eyes to VR, and to the possibilities virtual reality brings to gaming, as well as letting children and even adults live out their dreams of being a superhero. VR just needs more people to believe in the concept of it, and for that, work needs to be done to adapt VR to show just how much better it can be when compared to flat screen gaming. With the PSVR 2 now released and Spider-Man 2 releasing not long after this video's release, I felt like it would be the perfect time to adapt an IP like Spider-Man to VR for the first time. Wolverine wouldn't have quite the same appeal. Not that Wolverine is an underground character by any means at all, but people definitely know Spider-Man better than Wolverine. This lets Insomniac, the studio behind the game, go a lot more brutal and make the game potentially very gory. Wolverine is a character that doesn't hold back from killing people like Spider-Man does, so the blood and gore could definitely be a lot more extreme than it is in Spider-Man games. This is more extreme than the game would ever be, but I would love to see Mortal Kombat levels of gore in a VR game. Some games do try and achieve this, but usually fall short in other areas. Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption are two series adored by fans, with gripping stories, crazy amounts of detail and top-of-the-line graphics for the time of release. I think we can all agree having GTA accessible in VR is like a dream come true. Modders already have even gone as far as making full VR mods for both GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2. The mod gave players full camera control from their headset, but unfortunately didn't give any support for motion controllers. Which does make sense, as both games are extremely dense, and would take years for a small team to implement something as impressive as full VR motion controls. However, these mods have been taken down as Rockstar did issue a cease and desist to the creators of the mod. Rockstar is another studio that has actually done VR before. Rockstar released LA Noire The VR Case Files, which was a shortened version of LA Noire, but instead ported to VR, and it had full motion controller support. This game is a must play in my opinion, and is a hidden gem of VR classics. Being able to play GTA 5 or even GTA 6 in first person with full motion controls would make it one of the best VR games around. I'll be willing to pay a fair amount of money to be able to relive GTA story missions in VR. Especially ones like marriage counselling, where you play as Michael and have to pull down a house in Vinewood Hills by using your car, and also heist missions like the classic jewelry store robbery. If GTA in VR used a system similar to the one used in LA Noire, GTA could be a truly insane VR game, with depth on the level nothing else VR has ever seen. Red Dead Redemption 2 is widely regarded as one of the best video games of all time, receiving a score of 97 on Metacritic, which is one of the best reviewed games of all time. It's truly a game where you can go anywhere and do anything you want. Even feed someone to alligators if you really want to. Just like GTA, an open world where you can do anything you want is a first for VR. Most VR games will have a narrative, and you have to follow that narrative to get anywhere in the game. But in games like GTA and Red Dead, you can explore the whole map as soon as you get access to the open world. Being able to ride your horse through the beautiful Red Dead environment at sunset with your rifle on your back is an experience that no other VR game could give you. And I'm just hoping that at some point Rockstar does decide to try out VR once again, and actually add full support for it. Now the likelihood of this becoming a reality is very low. At the moment Rockstar does seem to be making some questionable decisions, the most recent of which being releasing the first Red Dead Redemption game on Nintendo Switch and PS4, 13 years after it originally released. All while still not releasing it on PC, where they could have gotten far more sales. Rockstar appears to be more concerned about money than their loyal customers' experience, which has a lot of people worried about the future of GTA and the Red Dead franchises, and is making people question how good GTA 6 will be when it releases in a couple years. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video of me rambling on about games I'd like to see adapted to VR. If you have any games that you think would be good in VR and I didn't mention in this video, be sure to tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear your suggestions. Anyway, if you did like the video, I'd really appreciate it if you did leave a like and also subscribe. Anyway, hopefully, I'll see you next time.